one of the most important issues that our league is dealing with, our members voted to focus on, includes the local action on climate crisis, on the crisis. Community choice energy is one of those actions. As is our tradition, the league will hold a discussion group on Zoom after this forum on November 3rd, so that members can have an informal dialogue with Colin for more information. See our website calendar and newsletter for the Zoom link to join. Now, next month's forum on November 17th noon, we will hold a community forum on public safety. Criminal justice reform is another very important focus of our league this year. We hope you there on November 17th. We invite you to add your questions to the Q&A during the discussion, and our moderator will ask the panelists to answer them as we are able after the discussion. So please put your question in the Q&A, and we will discuss them at the end. And we apologize in advance if we cannot respond to every question. A big thank you to our forum organizers, Colin Jones and Pam Flint Tambo. Pam is our Vice President of Programs and Social Policy, and she is right now behind the scenes monitoring the webinar and the Q&A box for your questions. And now I'd like to introduce our moderator, Dr. Colin Jones. Colin, along with his spouse, Joni, they've been a long-time members of the League of Women Voters and its Sustainable Communities Committee. Colin has been following community choice energy issues for many years. He advocated the League's positions to our local government and decision makers. This is the second League forum on CCEs that Colin has led. The first video is on our YouTube site if you're interested. Dr. Jones is a retired physicist involved with semiconductor optical detectors. He worked locally for Hughes Aircraft, Santa Barbara Research Center, and for the Lockheed Martin Santa Barbara Focal Plane. And now I hand it over to our moderator, Colin Jones.
Hello. We have gotten postcards saying we are now in a CCE. What is this? Why is it happening? How did we get to this? And why is the League of Women Voters interested? First, what is this? A community choice aggregation, or CCA, is an aggregation of local governments to do a service. In this case, the service is to purchase electric power for its customers. The CCA, California law, puts a firewall between the CCA and member governments. If the CCA gets bankrupt or is sued, the member governments are protected. Because the service is to provide electricity, they have changed the initials Community Choice Energy Aggregations, or CCEs. The second, why? Why would the League of Women Voters Santa Barbara, other environmental groups, and our local governments want us to form a CCE? The reason is CCEs provide the best means found so far to create strong, effective climate change action. The reason California's record on climate change action is as good as it is is largely due to the CCEs. They have purchased an average of 2 times cleaner energy than the utilities. The sale of this power to their customers earns money, but the CCEs are nonprofit government aggregations. The money earned does not go to shareholders or company profits. It goes to fund climate change and greenhouse gas reduction programs. The funds earned are very effective as they provide steady income. This allows long-term planning. They can be used to fund non-electricity related climate action projects. They provide local investment and local jobs. They do this with local input and control not possible under the utilities. Establishing a CCE has been the only way many local governments have had to meet state mandates on greenhouse gas reduction and to meet their local goals on clean electric energy and climate change action. Now, how did the CCE rollout happen locally? The first successful CCE in California was formed in 2010 in Marin County. Their success financially and in effective local climate change action created interest in our community, in our organizations, elected officials, and the people. Our Community Environmental Council with Jefferson Litton and later Mitchell Chiakos presented the CCE story and pushed for the formation of local CCEs. Meanwhile, CCE formation took off in California. There's now, I think, 24 CCEs. But Santa Barbara County got stopped by increasing fees, financial downturns, and not knowing how to operate under 2 different electric companies. Finally, in 2018, the city of Santa Barbara and the county of Santa Barbara voted for 2 very different solutions. Santa Barbara City formed a CCE alone with administrative support from Lancaster's Cal Energy. And the county and most of the other county cities joined Monterey Bay CCE, which renamed the Central Coast Clean Energy, or 3CE. We have with us Oswaldo Martinez and Susan Davison of 3CE, and Alelia Parenteau of the City of Santa Barbara to explain the fees, rebates, net metering, and programs of these CCEs. If you have heard them before, stick with us, as we will cover some areas in more depth after they speak, and then have time for general questions. Katie Davis from the Sierra Club is our community representative to 3CE. She planned to be here to tell her experiences in this position, but has a conflict, and we will try to pass on her comments. To introduce the speakers, Oswaldo Martinez is the Central Coast Clean Energy Public Engagement Associate serving in San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara counties. He is a member of the Energy Account Services team and is a bilingual liaison to residential customers. He conducts educational webinars, circulates resources for underserved communities, and manages strategic partnerships with community-based organizations. Before he joined Central Coast Community Energy, he taught environmental education at primary schools in Nicaragua, conducted Hispanic outreach at a water agency in Riverside County, and supported riparian restoration projects in North San Luis Obispo County. He was born and raised in Los Angeles and graduated from the University of California, Irvine, with a bachelor's in Earth Systems Science. Susan Davison serves as a key accounts specialist with Central Coast Community Energy. As a member of the Energy Account Services team, she provides resources to support the agency's largest energy users. She has more than 20 years of experience working on innovative policy and program design in clean energy, building decarbonization, energy efficiency, and finance. Her understanding of client goals has provided meaningful solutions to a wide variety of businesses across the Central Coast. Her education includes a bachelor's in urban studies from UCSD and a master's in urban planning from UCLA. She holds an AICP certification and is a founding member of the Sustainability Council for the Urban Land Institute. Alelia Parenteau, Lead Green Associate and Certified Energy Manager, is the Acting Director of the City of Santa Barbara's Sustainability and Resilience Department. When not in the acting mode, she runs the Energy and Climate Division. As Energy and Climate Manager, Ms. Parenteau identifies energy efficiency and conservation strategies, implements new technologies to reduce the city's energy consumption and transition to 100% renewable energy, and coordinates the development and implementation of the city's climate action plan. She oversees Santa Barbara Clean Energy, the city's community choice energy entity. With expertise in utility operations, creative finance strategies, energy development, policy development, and climate best practices, Ms. Parenteau has helped position the city of Santa Barbara as a city to watch in the state when it comes to energy management and climate action. Now, we'll switch over to presentations by Oswaldo Martinez and Susan Davison from 3CE and Alelia Parenteau from the city of Santa Barbara. And they will cover information important for the customers of their CCEs. Oswaldo and Alelia will start. If you have questions you would like to ask, you can add them to the Q&A button, and we will get to them after the presentations.
Thank you, Colin, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for welcoming us here today. Thank you to everybody who's here listening to learn more about community choice energy. As Colin alluded, we are going to be, Alelia and I will be working together to give this presentation. And so let me just go to the next slide real fast. And so this is a flow that we have for the presentation. I will be starting providing an overview of what is community choice aggregation. Of course, Colin already provided an introduction to that. I just want to provide a couple more details to add color to that definition that he provided. I also want to talk about how the enrollment works. When will the enrollment begin? And then I will pass it over to my colleague, Alelia. She will start off the presentation on Santa Barbara Clean Energy, and then she will pass it over back to me so that I can speak on behalf of Central Coast Community Energy. And at the end, of course, we're we're happy to take questions from the audience. So during the presentation, these are the frequently asked questions that we want to answer. We want to address these during the presentation. Is my bill going to increase? Will I receive 2 bills? Will my service with Southern California Edison be discontinued? And will I lose all of my discounts, rebates, and programs by participating in community choice? Will I have to decide whether to remain enrolled today? Again, these are the questions that we hope to answer during the presentation. And of course, we want to address any other questions that you may have after the presentation as well. So what exactly is community choice aggregation? You know, during the presentation, maybe during the conversation, you often hear a lot of people refer to community choice aggregation in different ways. Some people call it a community choice energy program or a CCE. We like to use the acronym CCA. That's the easiest way for us to use it in I guess in the energy world per se. All CCAs are created by a collective of local cities and counties. They form CCAs so that they can have more local control over where their energy is coming from. By forming a CCA, they take part in that decision-making process in determining how and where your energy is being generated, with the goal, of course, of advancing more clean, more renewable energies that meets the demand of our communities. So that's the main purpose of a CCA. CCAs are government agencies, and so we don't answer to shareholders. Our revenue is reinvested back into the communities, mainly through stabilizing the rates and investing in what are known as energy programs. These are incentives, these are grants, these are rebates available to all of our customers. And so today we are not the only 2 CCAs in the state of California. There are roughly 23 CCAs all throughout California, serving approximately 11 million customers. We all support equity, we all support choice and renewable energy, and we are a positive force in over 200 communities. So how exactly does this work? Are we here to replace the existing utility? In this case, it would be Southern California Edison. No, we're not. We are here to actually work with them. We are here to determine the source of your energy. Where is that energy coming from? How can we make it more renewable, more clean on the grid? So that is our main purpose. That is our main role, whether that's with Santa Barbara Clean Energy or whether that is with Central Coast Community Energy. Our role is to determine the source of your energy supply. And of course, both of our agencies will be talking about what our goals are in the future to ensure that we can provide a 100% clean and renewable energy future for our customers. In terms of the delivery, that's still managed by your local utility, whether that's PG&E or Southern California Edison. They still continue to maintain all of the lines, deliver all of that energy to your home or to your business. If there's an outage, a public power safety shutoff, that is still something that is managed by the local utility. And most importantly, they are still here to send you one single consolidated bill, such that when all customers make the transition to their local community choice agency, you see no disruptions to your service. You're still receiving one single bill that comes from your utility. We're just simply replacing the old generation charges that came from Edison. That's all that is happening. We are just simply swapping out their old charges for our new generation charges. In terms of the coverage, which communities are covered? Well, you may have friends, family, relatives that live up in the northern parts of the Central Coast. So in terms of Central Coast Community Energy's coverage, we serve from Santa Cruz County all the way down to Santa Barbara County. The only exceptions being the unincorporated San Luis Obispo communities, the city of Lompoc, and importantly, the city of Santa Barbara, because they are receiving their service from Santa Barbara Clean Energy, and that's why my colleague here, Alilia, is here to speak more to that program. In terms of the current enrollment that is going on right now, you may have been receiving mailers in the mail. You may have been hearing about a transition occurring this month. Well, there is a transition for the customers in Carpinteria, Goleta, and the unincorporated South counties of Santa Barbara. Those communities are enrolling in Central Coast Community Energy throughout this month. Your enrollment is happening depending on the date in which Southern California Edison is reading your meter, and that date appears on the top corner of your bill. The same is occurring for our customers, for the customers in the city of Santa Barbara, the residents at least. Those customers are transitioning this month as well. And I will, again, I will defer more to my colleague Alila so she can speak more to that transition. So once a customer transitions to shared service, so you're now being served by both a community choice agency and your local utility. Like I said, you are still receiving one single bill that comes from your utility. All that is happening is that the CCA is replacing the old generation charges that came from Southern California Edison. We are not an additional charge. That's where a lot of folks still have a lot of questions, especially when they start to see their bills start to spike, especially in the summer months. A lot of folks will have that question, right? That it is reasonable for folks to assume that we are an additional charge if they don't have all the information they need to understand what is going on. So that is very important for us to address. We are not an additional charge. We're simply just replacing the old generation charges that came from Southern California Edison. And you may know folks that are on discount programs. These are programs that provide financial assistance on the utility bill for our vulnerable customers. These programs include CARE, FARA, HEAP, and Medical Baseline. We just like to let folks know that we honor these programs. No changes need to be made. Once you've been transitioned to shared service, you don't have to make any changes to these programs. You don't have to reapply. You don't have to fear losing access to these programs. Everything stays the same once you become a shared customer. And so with that said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to my colleague, Alilia, who will begin the presentation on Santa Barbara Clean Energy. And as I said, later on, we will transition back to Central Coast Community Energy. Thank you so much, Alilia.
Thank you, Oswaldo, and hello, everybody. It's great to be here today, and thank you for giving us an opportunity to talk about our programs and the benefits to our communities. Next slide, please. So as both Oswaldo and Vijaya and Colin said, we have established our own community choice energy program here in the city of Santa Barbara, and there's a number of reasons why we did that, and we'll go over that in the presentation. But ultimately, it was about protecting our local community, our coast, our children, and providing a better future for our citizens. Next slide, please. So as Oswaldo mentioned, today or before, when you were an Edison bundled customer, your electricity sources were determined by Edison. You did not have much say in where your power was coming from. With Santa Barbara Clean Energy, it was really important for us to default to carbon-free electricity community-wide, and community choice energy allows us to do that. Next slide, please. So we'll go into each of these choices in a little bit, but really this is the foundational premise under community choice energy, is that where before you could only go to Edison for your energy provision, now you have several choices. And so that ability to give our community a choice was really, really important to our city council. Next slide, please. And as Oswaldo mentioned, it's really important to remember that the city is not taking over the poles and wires. This is one of the most common misconceptions that we hear about, that folks think we're taking over not only the procurement piece or the contracting for energy, but also the delivery of energy. This is really a beautiful partnership between the city or other communities and the utility to try and do these climate initiatives. Next slide, please. So for a different visual, Santa Barbara is going to be buying and building this, and we'll talk about building in a moment, carbon-free energy resources. Edison will deliver that energy over its poles and wires and provide billing services. So the customer still gets one single bill. And then the community gets to benefit from reduced carbon emissions from cleaner electricity, an improved environment, and better community through programs and incentives that help further our climate goals. Next slide, please. So who is enrolled? This is another question we get a lot. Why was I automatically enrolled? Well, the law that founded the ability to create a community choice energy entity, Assembly Bill 117, required that everyone in a territory is automatically enrolled in the program. This was actually done to help these programs succeed because it was pretty much assumed that people would not take an affirmative action just by getting a notice in the mail. So the California Public Utilities Commission required that everybody gets automatically enrolled and has the choice to opt out should they decide they don't want to participate. So really here in Santa Barbara, this includes all residential customers, all business customers, all municipal customers, including the desalination plant, which is a significant portion of Santa Barbara's load. And so it really is a powerful tool to convert our energy to carbon free. Next slide, please. And it really makes a difference. It allows every resident and business owner in Santa Barbara to make a substantial difference. This is a national statistic that only about 11% of the national energy consumption is carbon free. And so here in Santa Barbara, we're really taking a big step by going 100% carbon free out of the gates. Next slide, please. So we have three options as part of Santa Barbara Clean Energy. Our default option, meaning the one that everyone is automatically enrolled in, is called our 100% green program. And this was really in response to all of the feedback, including Colin's feedback throughout the process, that Santa Barbara wanted renewable, clean energy in their power mix. So our default product is 100% carbon-free, greenhouse gas-free. It does come at a premium of 1.2 cents per kilowatt hour. For the average homeowner, that's about $5 more a month. And almost everyone is automatically enrolled in 100% green. Next slide, please. And then because some people can't or don't want to pay that premium, we have our Green Start program, which is more carbon-free than Edison, so at least 50%, but at the exact same price as Edison. In fact, by rate setting policy, these rates are set to Edison rates. So your bill would be the same whether you were a Santa Barbara Clean Energy member or an Edison member. Our financial assistance programs, like Oswaldo was talking about, CARE and FARA and medical baseline customers, are auto-enrolled in the Green Start program so that they can retain their benefits, their discounts, but they always have the option to opt out if they want 100% carbon-free electricity. Next slide, please. And then we have our resilient option. So another foundational motivation for the city to create a community choice energy program is really resilience. We are at a very vulnerable point on the Southern California Edison transmission lines here in Santa Barbara, and we are constantly looking to build generation assets and resilience here. So the Resilient program really underscores that. It is basically a program that you are enrolled in. If you are a net energy metering customer, that means you have solar on your home or business. And our program pays more than Southern California Edison for excess power you generate on an annual basis. Every year, Southern California Edison and every other load serving entity calculates whether you produced more energy than you used. And if you did, they pay you what's called a net surplus compensation rate. Well, Santa Barbara Clean Energy's net surplus compensation rate is more than double what Edison pays. And that is because it is so important to us to have our residents and businesses build that local resilience on their roofs. So you are automatically enrolled in Resilient if you're a net metering customer. And you are also, it's sort of an add-on program, if you will. So you're also auto-enrolled in 100% green. But as I mentioned, you could opt down to Green Start if you wanted. Next slide, please. So what are the benefits of choosing Santa Barbara Clean Energy? Well, beside the ability to choose your level of clean energy and where it's sourced, you can make more from your solar system, as I just explained. You can actually actively participate in fighting climate change at the local level. You can save with innovative incentives and programs, which we'll go over in a little bit. You can help us meet local clean energy goals, like Council's 100% renewable electricity goal that they established in 2017. And you can help build energy resilience through things like the Resilient program or some of these incentives and benefits that we're going to discuss. Next slide, please. So here's a little background timeline of where we started and where we are today. So in 2017, Council did adopt a 100% renewable energy goal by 2030, and this was community-wide. It was not just for city facilities. They also directed us to develop a strategic energy plan to figure out how to achieve that goal. It became very clear through that process that community choice energy was a very key and critical driver in that, because there was no other way to transition our entire community in one fell swoop to this carbon-free electricity through any other mechanism. So in July of 2019, Council did vote to found Santa Barbara Clean Energy, and it has taken this long to get our implementation in place. And then in January of 2020, the PUC approved our plan, and we've been just putting logistics in place. Really importantly, in September of 2020, Council adopted a carbon neutrality goal by 2035. And I will tell you in a moment why this is so critical, but essentially Santa Barbara Clean Energy gives us a viable pathway to achieving that goal that we did not have before. So October of 2021, this month, we did launch our residential service on October 1st. So we are officially active. And in March of 2022, we're going to be launching all of the rate classes. So commercial, industrial, etc. Next slide, please. So this is the thing I wanted to talk about in terms of our carbon neutrality goal. So as you can see from this pie chart, electricity accounts for about 20% of Santa Barbara's greenhouse gas emissions, and that is through energy used in buildings. The other 20% is natural gas, and we're doing some other things to try and reduce that portion. But in one fell swoop, with the launch of Santa Barbara Clean Energy, that yellow piece of the pie no longer exists. It is carbon-free electricity. The other really important thing is, besides the waste to landfills being a very small portion, transportation is a really, really huge piece of the pie. As you can see here, it's 60% and just growing as the other portions reduce. So Santa Barbara Clean Energy gives us a viable pathway to electrify that piece of that pie. We can start getting people into electric cars and onto electric bikes, into electric buses, and really making a big impact on that green portion of the pie. Next slide, please. So our team has been really proactive in developing some incentives to have at launch. And so we have these available today to any residential customer of Santa Barbara Clean Energy. As I mentioned, the Resilient program pays you more for your net surplus compensation rate on an annual basis. Additionally, because we are trying to encourage folks to transition away from natural gas, we are offering Induction Cooktop demo kits, which folks can check out of the Central Library through the Library of Things and try out to see if they enjoy cooking on these new induction technologies, which are significantly different than the electrical coil stoves of the past. We also have 20% off of B-Cycle electric bike memberships for all of our customers, and we think that's a really great nexus between the transportation and the electrification of commuter modes. We are providing free home energy audits in partnership with the county's Tri-County Regional Energy Network. And for the first 30 customers that sign up, we're providing a water monitor. And that is really exciting because water, it has a huge amount of embedded energy within it. And so it's a nice kind of duo. And then we're also offering discounted battery systems for backup energy storage, as well as two new ones that are on here, discounted Chevy Bolts through Bunnin Chevrolet, and also discounted solar through various community partners. So we're really looking to provide value adds to our local community. We're partnering only with local businesses to provide these incentives because we think that has the added benefit of economic development here locally. And it really underscores why this was so important to us to have this be hyper-local. Next slide, please. So why are we different? Really because we have these ambitious community priorities. As I mentioned, it would be really challenging to achieve our energy or climate goals without something like Santa Barbara Clean Energy that we control specifically and can design programming and energy incentives to fit the needs of those goals. We also really wanted to maintain local control over electricity rates, revenues, and programs, and get community-specific feedback into why those existed. We wanted to build toward local resilience, as I mentioned, and not only will we do that through the individual rooftops of homes and businesses, but also through city assets, such as the Laurel Reservoir, for example, is a space we're looking at to develop large-scale assets. We thought it was really important that the decisions are made locally from people who live here in our city with public input and through a transparent process, as opposed to somewhere far away from our town. Additionally, we're small, local, and responsive. You can get me on the phone at any time if you have a CCE question, and I think that speaks volumes. And lastly, it's not on here, but we really wanted to keep the revenues local. As Colin mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, this does have revenue generating potential. And instead of sending that back to Edison's entire territory or to their shareholders, we get to keep that here locally and reinvest in our local resilience and businesses. Next slide, please. So again, really there's nothing but benefits from Santa Barbara Clean Energy. There's something for everyone in terms of clean energy in your power mix and cost stability. We offer all of these choices for you, the customer, to choose from. And we are really excited that you're on this journey with us. Next slide, please. And with that, I will hand it back over to Oswaldo, but I'm here for questions.
Thank you so much, Alilia. So now for the remainder of the presentation, I will be speaking to Central Coast Community Energy. And so if you live in Carpinteria, Goleta, or South County, this presentation is for you. Of course, if you live in some of the other enrolled communities across northern Santa Barbara County or some of the other communities, if you're not from within the county, this presentation is also for you. So I will be speaking about where we are serving and how our enrollment will work this month. So who are we? Well, as you see here, we represent 33 cities and counties across the Central Coast. Our service area is expansive. It covers roughly 4 counties, roughly 29 cities. As you see there, everything that is shaded in green is part of our service area. So for the majority of Santa Barbara County, you are receiving your service from Central Coast Community Energy. Our collective of those 33 jurisdictions has a structure to its governance, right? Our city councils, as well as our city and county administrators, they are the ones that take part in the decision-making process. They are the ones that ultimately make those decisions on behalf of their communities on where that energy should be sourced from. How should we be reinvesting that revenue back into the communities? You know, as Alilia had mentioned, all of the revenue that is produced by a community choice energy agency stays local. And so that's something that we really want to champion, and we empower our local leaders to make those decisions on behalf of their communities. So our policy board is comprised of our city council, our city elected officials, and then our operations board is comprised of our city and county administrators. So just to provide you an example, for the seat of the county of Santa Barbara, we have currently our vice chair, Doss Williams, who sits on the policy board, and then we have County Administrator Mona Miyasato sitting on the operations board And then for the shared seat between Goleta and Carpinteria, you'll see that for the smaller communities, they do share the seat. They rotate at their own discretion. Currently, right now, we have Council Member Kyle Richards of Goleta sitting on the policy board, and then we have City Manager Dave Derflinger of Carpinteria sitting on the operations board. In terms of how we've expanded, we're a fairly young agency. We officially began providing service to the communities in March of 2018 and slowly started to expand outside of the Monterey Tri-County. We eventually reached the communities of SLO and Morro Bay, and then that expansion also included a couple other communities in the county of San Luis Obispo, as well as the county of Santa Barbara. So where are we now? Well, we are in the middle of another transition, another expansion. We are enrolling an estimated 40,000 customers in Carpinteria, in Goleta, and southern Santa Barbara County. So that may include communities like Isla Vista, Montecito, and Summerland, Mission Canyon. These are communities that are considered not incorporated, and thus their jurisdiction falls within the County of Board of Supervisors. Our final enrollment will occur in early 2022, where we will be enrolling an estimated 7,500 customers in the city of Bealton. One last thing that I want to mention in this timeline is that it takes quite a while for a community to join this agency. They have to undergo an extensive public input process. The City Council or the Board of Supervisors holds a series of public meetings where they ultimately vote on whether to join this agency, and it takes roughly 1.5 to 2 years for that community to officially transition into our shared service. And as I said, we are a fairly young agency, but today we have a couple of accomplishments. I don't want to read bullet by bullet, but I do want to highlight a couple of things. You know, today we have a pretty high customer retention. You know, we have over 94% of our eligible load in the North counties, in the PG&E service area retained, and then roughly 97 to 98% of consumption in South County retained at this moment. In terms of economic vitality, you know, we champion reinvesting back into our local communities, and one of the ways that we mainly do that is through our energy programs, which are effectively incentives, grants, and rebates for all of our customers to make that transition to a clean energy future. We want to champion local support as well, and we do that mainly by looking to encourage local business opportunities with local vendors. And so today we have contracts with local vendors of over $1 million. We are a financially stable agency as well, and I think our recent A credit rating with S&P is a testament to our financial stability. We are the first CCA in the state of California who has received an A credit rating, and we have over $140 million in our reserves, which could be used in a rainy day for a rainy day purpose, potentially to stabilize the rates, as was the case when the pandemic was initially occurring. A lot of folks were struggling to pay their bills. We use that rate stabilization fund to help offset some of those losses. And of course, we are an agency that champions acquiring more renewable energies, more clean technology onto the grid. And today we are well on our way to achieving our renewable energy goals, which I will speak more about in a moment. In terms of our rates, we have a pretty good track record in terms of how our generation rates compare with the local utilities. Since mid-2020, we have been able to provide a 2% discount off of the rates, and this mostly applied to our PG&E customers, but just know that the 2% discount is also going to apply for our newly enrolled Southern California Edison customers, which means that you are effectively paying lower every month for your energy bills, roughly 50 cents to 75 cents lower. Of course, it is not a lot, but we just want to reassure folks that you are not paying an additional cost for your energy service. So in terms of our long-term vision, what is our plan to achieving more renewable energy on the grid on behalf of our communities? Well, we've recently established a pathway, a strategy, if you will, where we plan to achieve or obtain 100% clean and renewable energy by the year 2030. And we're doing it at a pace that we feel comfortable, that allows us to be fiscally responsible for our customers. So we're still supporting affordable rates. We're still reinvesting back into our communities through energy programs. Our first goal is to reach 60% clean and renewable energy by the year 2025. And our second goal would be to reach 100% clean and renewable energy for all of our customers by 2030. And what's really exciting about this goal is that it comes 15 years ahead of California's goal of the same nature. We're well on our way to advancing, reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the state of California. And it puts us as a leader. It puts us in a position where we are a leader to other utilities, to other energy providers in the state of California. As I said, we are well on our way to achieving our first goal of 60% renewable energy by the year 2025. The map here reflects some of our project locations that may include solar paired with storage. We know that sources such as solar and wind can be intermittent, and so they are not readily available throughout the day. So our plan to mitigate those impacts is to firm up our renewable energy supply by purchasing storage with some of our intermittent sources. Using storage allows us to use up or store some of that energy when it is readily available and deploy it when it stops becoming available, when demand starts to peak, especially during the evening. We also want to deploy geothermal. We have wind, and then some projects, some standalone projects that may only be solar, that may only be standalone storage. And all of these projects do feed into the California grid that we all use. So in terms of how we mainly reinvest back into the communities, well, that is done through our energy programs. We put aside about 4% of our annual revenue to invest in these programs. And you can think of these as incentives, as grants or rebates to help our customers make that transition to a clean energy future. For most programs, there is no income requirement, but if you do qualify based on income, we can double the incentive. Most of these programs just require that you are a customer of this agency, that you are participating in your local community choice agency program. So just to kind of provide a couple more details on some of the energy programs that you see here on the slide. Electrify Your Ride is an upcoming incentive program for all customers, residential or commercial, for the purchase of new or used electric vehicles. You can get a greater incentive if you qualify based on income. And this program will also include separate incentives for the installation of private chargers in your home or in your business. It will also include incentives for the purchase of electric bikes. So be on the lookout for that program. It is coming fairly soon. I want to say at some point in mid to late November. We also have programs for our school districts. We have the one called School Bus Electrification. And this is a program to help our schools obtain electric school buses. We can pay for a portion of the electric bus. We also have the Agricultural Electrification Program. This is for our customers that support the ag industry or maybe on an ag rate themselves. We can provide incentives for aspects to electrify your operation. So you can get an electric pump, you can get an electric tractor, and so on. We welcome a variety of ideas for this program. And of course, in the future, we will be looking to providing more programs for our residents. We will have the Residential Electrification Program, which can take the shape of providing incentives for the installation of heat pump water heaters, electric stovetops, or even electric space heaters. And then as we proceed during the fiscal year, we will be administering what are known as energy education grants, which are available for our partners providing educational programs or workforce development programs that are related to clean and renewable energy. So in terms of the choices that customers have, you do have the automatic or the default choice for every customer will be 3C choice. And this is where you will be getting that roughly 2% discount off of the generation rate from Southern California Edison. Here you will see that your energy mix is roughly 31% of eligible renewables. And if you would like to move up to something greater than that, you can go up to 3C prime. This is a completely optional but premium offering. You would pay roughly 0.8 cents more for every kilowatt hour than the 3C choice rate. But here you would be paying for effectively 100% renewable energy that comes from solar and wind. The reason that we have these two choices, as I mentioned, we do have a pathway towards achieving 100% clean and renewable energy by the year 2030, but we're not quite there yet. So really these two choices, 3C choice reflects our current, I would say, progress on reaching renewable energy. But as we reach 2030, we will effectively be merging these two options such that every customer will be paying for 100% renewable energy at an affordable rate. So if you would like to opt up to 3C prime, you can do so by clicking on the link that corresponds to your region. So if you live in the northern region, you would click on the first link. And if you live in the southern region, which would be our San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara communities, you would click on that link. I think an easier way would be if you just want to give us a call, our call center reps can easily handle that for you. So in terms of how we are notifying the customers, per state law, we do send 4 notices by mail, by email whenever possible. So we send the first 2 notices 60 and 30 days prior to the transition. And the last 2 notices come 30 and 60 days after the transition. The transition for every customer occurs on the date in which Edison reads your meter. And so that's going to be different for every customer. We are still in the middle of the transition. Some customers this month may have already transitioned if their meter read date was on October 5th, for example, but we may still have customers in the queue to be transitioned into shared service if their meter read date comes, for example, in October 25. Every customer does have a choice. You know, we like to share the benefits of being a shared customer, participating in a community choice energy agency, because there are a lot of benefits, such as the ones that I mentioned. But if you do not want to participate, we completely understand. Everybody has that choice in determining where or who you want sourcing your energy. So you could always opt out, return to SCE's bundled service at any time. If you do have solar rooftop on your property, if you do have a solar rooftop installation, or if you do have perhaps even wind generation on your property, you are what is considered a net energy metering customer or a NEM customer. We just want to let you know that your enrollment will not actually occur until January. And so you are effectively on a different timeline in terms of the notices that will be coming to your door or by email. You'll be receiving your first notice 60 days prior to the transition, which should be at some point around November. And that's really when the timeline is going to kickstart. And so the last notice you would be receiving it 60 days after January. So that would be at some point in March. Just know that we do have a separate set of, I can say a separate strategy or outreach for these customers. We do have separate webinars to walk you through what a NEM enrollment would look like for you. And as part of our strategy to support local businesses, we have launched what is known as a vendor registry, which allows CCCE or Central Coast Community Energy to know which businesses in our service area provide services that we are looking for. So if we ever put out a solicitation, such as a request for proposal, and if you have registered in the system, then you will be notified right away of any relevant opportunities. So we highly encourage anybody who has a business, if you think you would have an opportunity that is relevant to a public agency, please register for our vendor registry. And in terms of events that we have upcoming, we're still educating the community on who we are. You know, we foresee a lot of folks still having questions about how this works. If you know anybody who wasn't able to attend this webinar, please encourage them to attend our upcoming webinars. We do have one specifically for our commercial customers, as well as our residential customers, one in English and one in Spanish. And you can register by going on our website. So with that said, that concludes my portion of the presentation. If you want to contact us, you can reach us at southsupport@3ce.org. That corresponds to our communities that are served by Southern California Edison, or you could also give us a call at the number that you see on the screen. Thank you very much.
I have a follow-up question, starting with for Lilia. And that is, Santa Barbara City formed a CCE alone. Can you explain the structure and benefit of the Santa Barbara Clean Energy System and some of its longer range plans? Thank you.
Thanks, Colin. Yeah, absolutely. So as Colin mentioned, the city did go alone, and that's not very typical. Most CCEs are formed through a group of local government agencies forming a joint powers authority. And then you have something like CCCE that forms outside of any city government. But in Santa Barbara, we chose to form it as a city-only CCE. So the only member is the city of Santa Barbara. And it is different in that it's governed then by our city council. Because we clearly don't have a lot of these expertise in-house, we did partner with, as Colin mentioned earlier too, the Lancaster model, which is the California Choice Energy Authority, which is a different type of joint powers authority that just has city-only CCEs. There are 8 member agencies that have their own city-only CCE. And they provide a lot of the administrative support. So the power procurement, right, which is basically a brokerage service, load forecasting, regulatory support, legal support, marketing, all sorts of things that we just don't have in-house. Otherwise, we would have had to hire a team of 10 plus people to meet all of these needs. So that really worked for the city to keep us lean and still hyper-focused on the needs locally. The benefits really are the decision making, right? We are able to keep the revenue within the city of Santa Barbara, build any generation assets we want to build as close as we choose to build it, and then really develop programs that make sense for you, our customers. So we are an open line of communication. We want to hear what people need to meet these climate and energy goals, and then we will develop programs to reinvest those revenues into our community.
Okay, thanks. And a question to Oswaldo. And I'm looking at the questions that are coming in so far, and there's actually a lot of questions on what your mix is on power. But can you give us more background into your power choices and some of your long-term program plans?
Yeah, so I do also see a couple of questions in the Q&A, and the best way to answer that is to encourage you to check out our website. You could also check out Southern California's Edison's website. So the California Energy Commission has what is called a power source disclosure program, whereby every utility is required to provide or disclose their power content to their customers every year. And so the way that is formatted is very similar to a nutrition label. It takes about a year for those to publish. And so you could find our power content label from 2020 on our website. Really what you're going to see there is a similarity right now in terms of how much renewable energy each provider is offering right now. You know, Edison's or ours at a very similar level. And the reason for that is because for us at least, it is reflecting an accurate picture of the progress of our progress in reaching renewable energy. And as I said, by the time we are, our first goal is to have 60% renewable energy by the year 2025. We've already signed enough long-term renewable contracts from solar, from storage, in order to reach our first goal. And by the time those projects are expected to go online by the end of 2023, such that we've already reached our first goal of 60% renewable energy. And it gives us ample time to reach our final goal of providing 100% renewable energy by 2030. Our goal is to really firm up our renewable supply such that we can balance our monthly demand with our monthly supply. So that storage is really going to help us firm up some of those intermittent sources of energy, such as solar and wind, at different times of the day. And that's really going to allow us to provide a more reliable supply of energy to all of our customers. So in terms of long-term future, that really is a big part of our vision, is to secure that renewable future that we're referencing. And we're trying to do that in a fiscally sound way, such that customers, we still continue to support affordable rates for our customers, and we still continue to reinvest in programs. So I can mention 2 current efforts that we have underway right now. We currently have 2 solicitations for projects in the service area. Again, when we create projects, the hope is that we can support the local economy. And so if these projects can be built in the local service area, we think that can also help support the local economy. So we've created an RFP, a request for proposals, and shortlisted 4 projects, one of which is a solar plus storage project, and the other 3 which are battery storage. The other project that we have is an RFQ, a request for proposals for local storage projects for resiliency, which so effectively the goal would be to develop battery storage projects within the service area, each ranging from 1 to 5 meters in capacity, and altogether achieving a range of 100 meters in energy capacity, with the potential of islanding some of these projects near our critical facilities during an outage. So think of our hospitals, our fire stations, our water districts that are considered critical facilities and could rely on this backup supply during an outage. In terms of our energy programs for the future, those programs continue to be shaped based on the feedback that we get from the communities. The list that you saw on the slides pertains to this upcoming fiscal year's suite of programs, but of course those programs can change depending on what our customers are telling us, what the feedback is every year when we distribute the surveys to our customers. So typically our energy programs are designed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions locally, and they tackle 4 key areas, one of which is resiliency, one of which is agricultural electrification, transportation, and the final one is building electrification. Those are the main sectors that contribute to greenhouse gases in our area, and so we are providing incentives for our customers to make that switch to cleaner technologies that can help reduce our impact here locally.
And if it's okay, Colin, I'd love to jump on and add on to what Oswaldo said. For Santa Barbara, because I saw a few questions in terms of how do we make sure it's carbon free and where are we sourcing our power? And California has some very, very strict and clear rules as what counts as renewable energy and then carbon free. And so we're purchasing, we're contracting for power specifically under those parameters. Our council also did set a policy of no renewable energy credits, and renewable energy credits are when you decouple the power generation with the environmental attributes. So the ability to call power green, you can sell just that off separately. And they didn't want to buy their way out of this problem. So they said, we're not going to do any renewable energy credits. We actually want to buy the renewable and carbon-free power. And so we're specifically doing that. But to the question of what happens if we run out of power, do we just default to Edison? There's sort of 2 answers to that question. One is we have the exact same requirements as Edison in terms of power procurement and what we have on standby. And all load serving entities have to over procure power, if you will, for that sort of worst case scenario. We also have to buy what's called resource adequacy, which is everyone invests in a statewide sort of insurance policy to make sure that there is steel in the ground energy generation to meet the state's peak demand. So we're all required to pay into that. whether you're Southern California Edison, CCCE, or Santa Barbara Clean Energy. And that helps ensure that we don't run into that scenario where we just run out of power. If something dramatic happened, Southern California Edison is what is called the provider of last resort. So we would all sort of get funneled back to Edison. We wouldn't stop receiving power, but there are a lot of stopgaps in place to make sure that that does not occur. So it would be very unlikely.
Okay. Great. Had another question for Oswaldo. You worked with Katie Davis, our community representative to 3CE, and she was hoping to be here but had a conflict. But can you tell us some of what she was involved in?
Yeah, Katie Davis is a rock star. She's been sitting on the Community Advisory Council for a little more than a year, I want to say. And she has been participating in all of the Community Advisory Council meetings, which are held roughly once a month, in some cases once every 2 months. And she's really shown leadership by participating in some of the subcommittees that the agency has created through the Community Advisory Council. The first one that she participated was in the Energy Education Grant ad hoc committee, where they kind of ranked and decided who those grants were going to be allocated to in our service area. And so she worked with staff as well as other CAC members to help make those decisions and help really provide that feedback that staff needed to make, you know, the final list of awardees. And currently right now she sits on the Underserved Communities Committee. And that's a committee that I sit on, as well as my teammate Patty Cruz, as well as 2 other members of the CAC, the Community Advisory Council. What we do in that committee is to really think hard and reflect on how our agency can improve our engagement with the underserved communities. You know, we're seeing a lot right now that customers, especially in our enrolled communities, still don't have different levels of familiarity with who we are. And we see that a lot of that confusion still coming from our low-income communities, our vulnerable communities. And so part of our work is to understand how we can improve our communication with them, improve our engagement with them as it pertains to energy programs, getting their feedback on any efforts being conducted by the agency, and also really define underserved communities. What does that mean to Central Coast Community Energy? How do we identify those communities in our service area? So Katie Davis has been an instrumental part of that process. She sits on the meetings. She's helped us conduct interviews with certain stakeholders. And of course, she has been providing a lot of helpful feedback that is helping us shape our set of recommendations that we're going to present to staff as well as the Community Advisory Council this December.
Thank you. When I was originally talking with Katie, I was worried that the Santa Barbara County area would be lost in the large 3CE organization. But Katie told us she was very impressed with the level of input that she and Das Williams, representing the county, and Kyle Richards, representing Goleta and Carpinteria, have had in 3CE. She feels that Central Coast Clean Energy really is run by and for the community. The communities in 3CE are all working toward the same climate goals, is what she told us. So, thank you. Now, throw it open to the general questions, and I see the question that I see up is from Cheryl about she was in a 100% clean energy Arcadia, and should she continue? And I guess I'll try to answer that from my side, and that is that the CCEs provide so much more in the way of programs and investment back into the communities and local control and input that I would certainly encourage joining the CCE. Okay, are there any other questions that have come in or are out there? No open questions.
Good.
Okay, I'll go to concluding remarks then. First, I want to thank the speakers, Oswaldo Martinez from Central Coast Clean Energy, Lilia Parento from Santa Barbara Clean Energy. And we've talked on the phone several times back and forth with Katie Davis, who is our representative to 3CE and is a local head of our local Sierra Club. A special thanks to Pam Flint Tambo, who was my support in setting up the forum, and to Vijaya Jamala Maladaka, and all the League forum helpers who worked with me to set up and work with the forum. So thank you to everybody. To conclude, the League of Women Voters Santa Barbara supports staying with your CCE. That means not to opt out, because of their strong, effective, and needed actions on climate change. As Katie Davis told us, look at what we have done together. This was a community effort. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good afternoon.